Hi, my name is Maya Akdemir, and my extension presentation will be on the question that I research, and that question is, in what ways does poverty impact trafficking in Nepal? So my case study is a documentary called Nepal Stolen Children. It was Demi Moore and the CNN Freedom Project worked together with a woman called Anaruda Koirala. She is the founder of the NGO that fights human trafficking and all sorts of human trafficking called Mighty Nepal. This NGO is one of the biggest advocates in the country for this subject. This NGO also rescues tens of thousands of girls each year. Thousands of girls each year from the hands of traffickers who intend to sell them to illegal brothels in India in Mumbai and New Delhi. This woman has won several humanitarian awards. One of the most important things this NGO does is that they provide classes and workshops that allow the girls to create new skills for themselves to adapt to the job environment after they get rescued. So since this is a crisis in Nepal, I'd like to talk about what makes Nepal so vulnerable and why traffickers choose this country. So the average income of an average family in the country is $200, if not less, which equates to about $1.50 a day, or just 10 cents more. Education is not mandatory. So when education is not mandatory, this results in a large portion of the country education is not mandatory, but it's also not free. So this results in a large portion of the country not being able to afford the education, and with a huge portion of the population living in rural areas. This makes it very difficult for them to access education. So families because families don't really receive an adequate level of education, they have to decide which child studies and which child works. And this is related to their lack of education in terms of that they have to choose between their son or their daughter, which results in certain gender inequality in a way, I guess. Because the girls are not in class and they are working, traffickers, they target these less educated and poorer villages, the daughters of these villages, and they promise them work in India or other countries. To refer back to the annual income of $200, this qualifies Nepal to be a less developed country, an LDC. Other factors that rank Nepal to be an LDC is that its HDI, its Human Development Index, is 0.58, which ranks it 114th out of 188 countries. Its multidimensional poverty index is 0.116, and finally its gender inequality index is 0.49, which ranks it 115 out of 159 countries. The gender inequality index can be related to the aforementioned choosing between their daughter and their son, like which one goes to school or not. So some political reasons of poverty in Nepal is its inadequate infrastructural facilities, meaning that the large portion living in rural areas cannot access schools, they cannot access hospitals, or other necessities. So when a population cannot access these basic needs, basic requirements, they are qualified to be under to be living in absolute poverty. So to be specific, 35% of the Nepal population lives below the poverty line. They make less than $1.50 a day. They don't have access to education. They are living in absolute poverty. So to refer to the poverty cycle, where it begins with low incomes, which leads to low productivity. So once a person is not productive enough, this leads to low levels of human capital, which finalizes in low levels of education and healthcare. This is a deadly cycle, and which shows the result of the consequences of not getting education, not having access to education. So certain political reasons of why human trafficking is so common in Nepal. I mentioned before some reasons, but this is more specific to the government. Like I said before, the low levels of HDI, GII, and MPI are linked to its absolute poverty and the factors that affect them to be under the poverty line. But one thing that, above not having mandatory education, the tens of borders between Nepal and India are unmonitored. They do not have a passport control. Thousands of people come and go each day, and they don't have to declare themselves to anybody. This creates a very easy path for traffickers to secretly kidnap these girls without anybody knowing anything. So in conclusion, what can be done is that increasing access to free education, especially in rural areas, will definitely pull the country above the absolute poverty line, and also educate girls to be aware of their surroundings. It keeps the girls in classrooms and not on the streets, and reduces obviously some level of sex trafficking. Another obvious reason is to increase various methods of border patrol. So having passport control, having to declare when you've been where, will make it easy for traffickers to be caught, or families to locate their daughter or son. Raising awareness on the subject, because these rural areas are uneducated, they are so far apart from the rest of the world, the rest of the country. This creates a very naive population, easy to trick, I guess. So raising awareness in those communities will definitely create a sense of defense for these girls. And finally, to provide to satisfy the demand for jobs, so to increase the job supply for the increasing population will definitely reduce girls' the way girls look for jobs. They don't have to dream about going to India looking for a job. They don't have to ever listen to a trafficker they don't have to put themselves in that situation. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you.